I'm Georgina Joel Russell and this is Quantum Convos. This is the second episode in my mini-series of interviews with previous Quantum Healing Hypnosis clients, and today we're going to be speaking to the lovely Karolina Fung-On. Karolina is somebody that I met within the mentoring group, similar to where I met Gracie, who was the last client that we saw. And Karolina was particularly anxious about her session. She hasn't done any kind of work like this before, and she did so well. It was an amazing session, and she's received so much guidance and so much healing since we worked together. So Karolina's with us today, and she is going to tell you all about her quantum healing hypnosis session with me, Georgina Joel Russell. So tell us about you.
My name is Karolina, and I have lived in the UK for about 25 years now. I'm from Sweden. I've got 3 children, and I live here in the local area close to Southwick. I'm a fitness instructor. I worked within fitness for 15 years, and before that I worked in the City of London, so very different.
So tell me, or tell us, everyone watching, the lives that you remember experiencing in your session.
Well, the first one was a butterfly, as it turned out. But when we initially sort of got there, I didn't have a clue what was going on. I just felt stuck, and it was all black and quite scary. It's all I remember. It's actually quite emotional to be in this room now, because you're sort of thinking back, and I remember these walls.
Yeah.
But it was quite emotional to not understand where I was, because I was in the, whatever it's called, chrysalis, not being able to move. And I think the feelings was, it was almost a feeling of not being able to move in the darkness. That was quite real, and the energy of what I felt. I remember you asking me if I was alive, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm alive. So you could feel that sort of energy, but still not understanding why I couldn't move.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of time to work out what was going on.
And that was, if I remember, that's where we dropped you in to start with, wasn't it? So your first experience was like the chrysalis. And that's quite normal for it to take a little while for you to kind of work out where you were. Where did you move on from the chrysalis?
I think the next bit was when you sort of come out of it. And I remember, I don't know if I did, but I felt like I was moving like this in the session, like I felt my arms were tied. Yeah. But then it sort of became clear that I could actually get out of this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember it was a real relief to go, oh, it's all had an explanation. And it felt quite relaxing then.
Yeah.
I could just sort of float around and be a butterfly.
Yeah, because I do remember what a relief it was for you when you actually knew that you were a butterfly. And you were like, I'm flying over flowers, I'm a butterfly. Yeah. I remember how exciting it was.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's sort of getting on. Oh, that stress. I think because I've never been hypnotised before. So when you're in it, because you're obviously in a hypnosis, but you're still here.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very strange feeling of being here but not being here at the same time. And you're experiencing something that causes that strong emotion when you're having it. The relief of finding out was massive. But it's interesting to sort of how it sort of turned out afterwards. Yeah. That it was meant to be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we see in the session is exactly what it was meant to be. And I think for you particularly, there was a lot of feeling attached to those scenes as well. Yeah. They were emotional immediately from what I remember.
Yeah. I'm feeling it now, just hearing your voice. I feel really emotional. Yeah. It's that sort of almost sort of, drowning, kind of like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It's all very real when you do it.
exactly, and
it's quite strange how it comes back to you like that.
Yeah. What was your second life?
Okay, everything seemed to have like a theme of being very dark because it started off in a cave.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I was a girl in some sort of, you know, early humans, something like that. Because we were collecting, you know, once we came out of the cave, I think we started off in the cave. And I then realised that I could feel the ground and working out what it was. But when we were outside the cave, it was all these sort of moss-covered boulders and like a waterfall stream, and the children was all out collecting things in baskets and stuff. It was very peaceful.
Yeah.
And we were also inside the cave having dinner, and it was sort of like a generational thing where people were sitting in groups doing different things, helping out with them. Some were preparing food, some were learning to do something else. I couldn't see everything, but it was sort of the feeling and the energy in there that was that people were cooperating and doing things together.
Yeah, it's like a community, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you move through that life? What were the phases for you?
I think we started in the cave. As a confusing start again. But then when I worked out what I was, I think we moved on and we went outside.
Yeah,
and then
you did some exploring outside.
And then I think it just ended in the cave. I don't really know what happened. I don't really kind of...
How did you pass in that life? Do you remember?
I was still a girl.
You stayed as the girl, that's right, yeah.
So I'm not sure what happened. It wasn't any pain. I just sort of...
Yeah.
Who knows?
Which can happen because when we first evolve into humans, as after coming from animals, from you being like the butterfly, when we move into the very first human lives we have, they're always very simple and they're always very short.
Okay.
Because we have to learn to be human. So we'll never get a very long, complicated life. So that was a very early one. Yeah. And did you have a third life that we explored? No, it was just the two. Yeah.
I felt that was enough.
Yeah. Exactly. Was there, when you were experiencing those lives, did you feel as though there was kind of an understanding of why they were being shown to you at the time, or did you just feel as though you were experiencing them?
It was very much an experience. It was a lot of emotion and feeling, as you said. I think it's more afterwards. They go, certain things, it just happens. Because I think about it quite regularly.
Yeah.
Or it will be something in the day that triggers it. That will make you go, okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. So even now, we did your session when? Was it back in February? And so even now, you're kind of like still relating to that information that you received on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Amazing. So it's played a really big part in who you are now.
Yeah, I think the butterfly it's just, and not just that it was a butterfly, the experience of being stuck, and that it's kind of okay. Because if you're sort of a perfectionist and you just, I need to know now, I need to know what happens, this is the plan, it's not going to plan, all of that, the whole butterfly thing is just like, well, it doesn't really matter because it happens when it happens, and just chill out and roll with it.
Yeah.
Which is sort of how I want to live, but my perfectionist side of my head isn't liking that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just helped.
Excellent. So if you get to the point ever where you kind of like feel that you're moving back into the perfectionist version, the perfectionist side of you, can you then draw on the experience of the butterfly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just sort of go, it's not that important, this is not that important.
Yeah.
It's much more chilled.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Wow. Amazing. So now you have an understanding of the ego and how it can play a part in our thought processes, and kind of always comes from a place of fear. Has it helped you to implement some understanding into your like normal everyday life?
Yeah, I think it's again, it sort of just helps to see when you are maybe overthinking things too much. That is not necessarily always to do that. And it's just highlighted it very clearly to me from that session that is what I'm sometimes doing. You know, you analyse and you now I go with I think it's the easiest way to describe it now when I make a decision. Because of this, I just feel, well, it doesn't really matter if I go A or B, but I'm going to do that one and it will be fine, and this is probably just what's meant to happen, rather than keep on going, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels easier to just get on with it.
Yeah. Amazing. So, do you think that comes from the life of the butterfly, where there was just an understanding of kind of everything's okay? Where do you think that feeling of being able to go with your choices more easily came from?
Yeah, I think the butterfly was quite a big part in that. Even it's such a tiny little thing. Yeah. It was just the emotion of being held down, sort of not having understanding.
Yeah.
And then when everything sort of became clear, it's like, it's easy. And I think that sort of, it doesn't really matter, the struggles and like when you're sitting on a decision, you can apply it to everything really.
Yeah.
But it's quite a nice sort of visual of when you apply it to everything you do.
Yeah.
They'd be fine.
Yeah.
And then butterflies, short life.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't seem like it's going to go on forever. You just go, okay, tough decision, do, over with.
What do you think your biggest healing has been since the session?
Oh, I think it was definitely the actual healing with with the forgiveness for my dad.
Yeah. Amazing. Was there any point during the session where you felt that something could be different for you? Did you have any kind of ideas about what was going to happen, or were you quite free about how the process was going to just pan out?
I didn't have a clue what was going to happen. And I think it's probably quite good to not know too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't generally, I quite operate on just do it.
Yeah.
And I felt very sort of safe and secure with you, and you're very calming, and a very calming voice. So I felt completely, just whatever happens. And I didn't realise it was going to be like that at all. I didn't know what. I just was so fascinated by the process of that one sort of session of this can help you. And I was very interested to experience it, and didn't realise how strong emotionally it would sort of make you feel.
Yeah.
And that I would sort of experience things that I did. Because it's, when you see a hypnotisation otherwise in films, you're like, oh, they're under and their eyes go all zoom. But I was completely here, and I remember it was raining, and you just, and you were saying at some points you're in Southwick in a bed, and I know, kind of thing. I felt that. So I was here, but still very much didn't want to leave what I was doing. It was, quite happy to just, lie down. I think we're done lying on the bed for 4 hours.
Something like that.
Quite not intense, clearly, but in terms of going through all those experiences, quite intense.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And didn't move, I think, except for wiggling around
as a chrysalis. Yeah, exactly. And how long did you feel like you'd been there when we'd finished, when I kind of brought you round and you had some water?
Oh, I didn't have a clue, but not 4 hours.
Yeah.
I felt like it took time to do all these things, but not 4 hours.
Yeah. It went quickly, didn't it?
Yeah.
It did. So, when we finished in your lives, we would have connected with your higher self, or what we call your subconscious. We call it both. What was that like for you?
I remember you asking me, can I ask your subconscious some questions? And I said yes. But it felt quite odd. I don't know why it felt different to talk then. I found it was different, you know, because obviously we talked throughout the session, but it felt like a different, I don't know. It felt different to talk then than it did when I was experiencing butterfly stuff.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know why. It just hit me now. I remember it sort of...
Because it is your higher self. So when you're speaking from the life, you are speaking as that person who's experiencing the life. But when I connect with your higher self, I'm speaking to universal consciousness. It's like another version, a higher version of you. So it would have felt different.
It definitely felt different.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And I can't remember all the guidance there, because I remember you were asking me, why do you think you were shown this life, and I'm like, I haven't got a clue. But I feel now that it sort of made more sense afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I think the way the sort of the lives panned out, it was very much feeling them rather than making too much sense about it at the time. I didn't have a clue what was going on. I just sort of told you what I saw, but it's made sense afterwards. It's made definite more sense. So I think with the subconscious, there was a few, and it was actually quite funny to listen to some of it, and you're like, oh my goodness. But it was me, but not me kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then I think the strongest feeling when we were in that subconscious is that healing. When you asked for forgiveness and all that for my dad. That was big.
Yeah. And you could feel the healing, could you, when we were working in the session? Yeah. What did that feel like?
Oh gosh, what should I say? You sort of felt really strong and light and calming and everything at the same time. Because I remember you said it was like a silver light coming in through my head and then sort of spreading. So it was very, even though he wasn't there, it felt quite physical. And that's really helped after, in terms of, because I was angry about a lot of things after my dad died and what it brought up. And now I'm not angry anymore. And that's, you can say, well, that's a natural grieving process, that, you feel anger and then you feel this and then you feel that. But it's really, I felt it was really a moment when it just, almost from before I saw you, I was angry, and then afterwards I was not angry, I'm just sad, normal sad as when your dad died. Yeah. It feels really good.
Yeah. That was full on healing, wasn't it? Yeah, it really was. It's amazing.
Yeah, so now we get all like crying. but these are big things, isn't it?
Of course they are.
Death and stuff. But then again, now you experience doing different lives. It's not so scary.
No, exactly. So, I guess the only thing we haven't talked about is what would you say to anyone kind of thinking or considering having quantum healing hypnosis?
First, to talk to you.
Thank you.
Because I think when I started to sort of inquire, it's really just comforting to hear that it doesn't really matter that it has this will happen, that will happen, this will happen. You can't really tell until you've done it. what's going to happen and what you will experience and how it will feel. And I think it was just a really cool experience to have, kind of a bit of self-learning and maybe seeing sides of yourself that you possibly are aware of but get very much highlighted when you're being hypnotized.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that's quite good because it's your own self showing you these sides, not someone else kind of going, oh, you should really do this or that. You is your own self just straightening you up a little bit, I think. So it's a nice, very gentle way of becoming aware of yourself. And it's,
What did it feel like for you going back and listening to the recording?
I couldn't sit still listening to it because I hate listening to my own voice, being on videos and films. So I was crying the whole time. And now I'm welling up again. But it was very, very emotional to listen to it. And I was literally pacing around with it in my headphones. And sometimes I listen to it just a little bit before bed, just to sort of let it sink in. Because I didn't listen for the 4 hours in one sitting. I just couldn't cope with it, really. But it was really, I remembered everything quite clearly, but it was nice to listen to it again to just reinforce.
Is that what you felt? That's kind of like the feeling that you got from listening, that it reinforced the experience for you?
Yeah. And hearing that sort of inner argument with my ego, I was getting quite annoyed with myself listening to it, with how long it took to just spit out some answers. But again, I think maybe that was just what I needed again to hear, because it's quite interesting now when you sort of become much more aware of your subconscious and your conscious and how it plays out, and those sort of inner dialogues that you have in your body and inner fighting. To become so aware of it in a session like that, because you wouldn't normally, because your ego would just completely take over everything. I think it was a really eye-opener and really interesting to see.